Welcome to the, Woodturning Workshop. Tim's a little bit snowed under today. He's making a project just for me. He's gonna make me a friend out of this piece of wood. Oh, nice grain, baby. Come here often? Stay tuned.
Today's project is really cool. You can give it as a gift or put it in your house for decoration. Kind of like every other wood turning we do, but hey, this one's really different. It's really neat. It's a snowman, so it's good to give around the holidays or use in your house as decoration. Anyway, we also stepped it up a notch because I wanted to challenge you with a couple new techniques that we haven't used before. So let's take a look at how the snowman's put together. First off, let's look at the body. It's one piece of wood, it's cherry, and it's got 1, 2, 3 snowballs. It's got a top hat with a colored brim. And then we have the 2 charcoal eyes. We have the carrot for a nose and the 3 buttons. He's a well-dressed man. And then we're gonna have a lot of fun using an off-center turning technique to make the arms. For today's tools, we're gonna be using a 1.5 inch roughing gouge, a 1/2 inch spindle gouge with a regular grind, a 3/8 inch spindle gouge with a fingernail grind, a 1/8 inch parting tool, and probably, get ready for it, a skew. Well, let's get started. I'm going to grab my roughing gouge, and you can see I've already mounted my wood in a chuck with a tailstock up for support. Nothing's hitting. We start the lathe at a slow speed just in case something will go wrong. Turn up a little bit higher. We need a high speed because it's a small turning. There's not a lot of feet per second going on there. And we're going to approach it with our roughing gouge and just move our body with the cut. Now I'm working with a 6 inch long, 1 3/4 inch square piece of cherry. That's what you'll need to make the snowman's body. Then we have a couple of extra smaller cutoff pieces that are about 3/4 of an inch wide that'll make up the arms and the eyes and the buttons. There we go. Now, we need to cut all the way to the end. And there's a really cool technique you can use with the roughing gouge. It was designed to do this. If you take your roughing gouge, roll it on its side, and press in, you can make what they call is a planing cut, or a plunge cut, whichever way you look at it. But it allows you to cut right up to the chuck. So all this wood is now rounded out and you can use it. And that's what this tool is designed to do. They use that in furniture a lot. Anyway, when you look at this, this is our little storyboard I made of our snowman. We've got the marks for the important parts of this. I want to stay a little bit shy of the end there. There's the first ball. That's 1.5 inches high. Here's the second snowball. It's 1/8 inch. And then right here is the head. It's 1 1/16. And then we have about 3/16 of an inch for the brim of the hat. And then up here is about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now I need to transfer the diameters of the snowman over. And I know this is about 1 5/8 inches already by roughing it out, so I don't have to make a mark there. I've got my caliper set for 1.5 inches, which is the second or the middle part, second snowball or the middle part of the snowman. Okay, so I know that one. Now, on my storyboard, I went ahead and also wrote the diameters. When you make this project, if you make one of these up, it's a great tool to have around. It really helps you out. So this next ball is 1 1/4 inches. You know what's so funny is I've had this caliper for years, and stupid me, I didn't realize that there were numbers here that I could set this stuff up. I was always going to my ruler and measuring it. Oh well, you know how it goes. Okay, we'll make our second mark. There we go. I don't want to do the hat yet because that will weaken the integrity of the piece for some other turning a little bit later on, so I want to keep it there. Now I'm going to go ahead and part down to those diameters, and then we'll start making beads with our spindle gouge. With a parting tool, you just rest the bevel and lift the handle, and it rides down on the wood very gently. I really like this tool. It's 1/8 inch wide, by the way. Now we're going to take our 1/2 inch wide spindle gouge with a conventional grind and start making our bottom snowball, which is a bead. And what do we do with beads? Yes, we sneak up on them. Now, I'm using cherry today, but you can use any wood you want to make your snowman. You just have to think of what color would go good with your tree or your decorations. And one other thing to consider, before you even do this step, you could come in here with a drill and drill a hole up into the snowman, make him lighter, and then you can attach a little hook to the top of his hat and hang him from your tree. But I've designed this guy to sit on a mantelpiece, so I wanted to have some weight to him so he won't fall over very easily. And now that's as far as I can go on this ball. I want to come and start working on the middle one. And we're going to start rounding it over. And we're going to meet it up with the other ball. And now you have to come back and clean up the join of those two. And I'll swing over here and start getting a better idea for the shape. And you see how I'm moving my body? I'm rolling, because you can't really see it, but the bevel on this tool tells you which direction you're turning. So bevel's rubbing, I'm rolling the tool, I'm lifting the handle, and then I have to swing my body to complete that movement. Now, it's great if you can do it all in one sweeping flow, but don't worry about it. You can always go back, pick up your cut like I'm doing now, and clean up those intersections. And remember, sandpaper is our friend. So now I've got the first two balls made. I'm moving to the next one, which is the head. So I'm going to go to my 3/8 inch spindle gouge with a fingernail grind because there's not a lot of room to work here. Same technique. This grind makes the tool fairly aggressive because it's such a tiny point. There's not a lot in contact with the wood, like the 1/2 inch spindle gouge, which has a broader point. But it's the same technique. Roll, turn, lift the handle. And you can even, you see the shavings coming off there, you can cut with the leading edge and actually shape this bead a little bit too. Now we're going to work ourselves back towards the hat. And this is a little bit more complicated of a cut because we're coming up against the flat rim, so you want to make sure you have this turned over sideways. Do it backwards like that, so you touch flat into the wood. If you come in with the point up, it'll get a catch. And I'm pushing in now, and I'm cutting with that leading edge into the hat, right there. So we start here at the peak of the bead. Actually, I've been calling this a snowman, but this is going to be a snowwoman for our buddy.
Yeah, you better make a woman for me.
Anyway, we want to make this head look like it's up under the hat, and I can only go so far with this tool. So now we're going to bring out the skew. We don't use this often because it's a tool that I really think should be taught in person how to use. So if you really want to use one, I suggest you take a class from a reputable a reputable turner who can teach you how to use it. And normally when you make a bead with a skew, you use it with this point down, this tall point up. But since we're so close against this flat surface, I'm going to use the tall point down. And all I'm doing is just trying to clean up that intersection there. And just touch the tip and roll it in. And I have the top of the skew aiming away from whatever piece of the work I'm cutting. There we go. That looks really, really nice. Were you holding your breath too? And we'll put this back up here right in its spot and leave it there for a long time. Well, the next thing I've got to do is transfer 3 more diameters. I need to put 1.5 inch diameter on here for the rim of the hat, 7/8 of an inch for the band of the hat, and 1 1/8 of an inch for the top of the hat. And you know, working on this snowman gets me thinking about the holidays, and the holidays gets me thinking about wish lists and toys. Well, for you new turners out there, I have some great ideas for you. The question I get asked the most by new turners: what tools do I start off with? Well, I recommend 5 tools. And, oh, Paul's here. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Tim.
You have my 5 tools laid out, and you have a microphone on. How cool.
Yeah.
That worked out really well. Well, the first tool we have here is...
That's a roughing gouge. It's a 3/4 inch roughing gouge. It's the most versatile one you can get. You can do large work and smaller work with it. And you know, you're going to have to put something in around it some point in your turn.
Right, everything comes with corners, it seems, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the next tool that I recommend is...
That's the spindle gouge. Man, that is a great tool. You're allowed to be able to make beads with it. You can make anything with your spindles. You can make some forms.
Coves and, like you said, beads and all nice shapes when you're doing your spindle work. It comes in very handy. And then the last tool for spindle work I recommend.
Oh, that's your parting tool. Parting tool is great because you're going to have to get that piece of work off your lathe at some point.
Right, and you use this to cut right into the wood and it comes off the lathe. And this is a 1/8 inch, really handy.
You also make some beads with it.
Little tiny ones, yeah.
Tiny beads.
Comes in handy.
Also make some nice little designs in there and however you turn the tool.
Right, you make the V grooves. And then if you're going to do bowl turning, I also recommend that you pick up a bowl gouge. You have to have one actually because you can't turn bowls without one, right?
It's correct. If you notice, it's a little bit thicker than the spindle gouge. The flute's a little bit different. It allows for the shavings and the chips just to fly out of there and not get caught up in the bowl.
Right, and since it's stronger, it can take more vibration and more mistreatment from the wood because when you're turning a bowl, sometimes it gets to be a little bit shaky and vibration-y. If that's a word, I'm not real sure. But speaking of vibration, the last thing you're going to need is a good...
That's a scraper. That's a real good thick scraper, especially for the bowl, because you can actually get off the end of that
tool rest
and get into your bowl. And also has a nice little curve on there so you can get around your bowl and take those nice light delicate cuts off right before you want to go to sanding.
Right, because you've got to be able to make those finishing cuts to have a good piece because you don't want to sand for the next 5 days. Well, thank you, Paul. These are the 5 tools I recommend that you start with as a new turner. As you see, I've been shaping the hat. Got the rim, got the top, and this is our band area. And I want to take my thin parting tool, which is 1/16 of an inch thick, wide, and just part down. And I'm separating the band from the top of the hat, and that's really important. Now I want to grab my other parting tool and come in here and clean up this side of the band. And if you take really light, slow cuts, take your time, you leave a nice surface here. There we go, and I'm just going to straighten this up just a little bit. Okay, I want to clean up just one last spot on the hat, and then we're going to sand. And now's the time to look at the project and see if you've got any tool marks, and you just go ahead and clean up those spots because it's a lot more fun to turn than it is to sand. And also, it's a lot faster sanding if you haven't left too many marks. And I just realized something. Can women, snowmen, wear top hats? That okay with you?
Sure.
Well, I made 2 cuts off camera before I started sanding, but they're very important cuts. I shaped the bottom a little bit, and I started shaping the top of the hat. And the reason I did that is if I hadn't done that, and I sanded, I'd have to make those cuts, and it would make jagged edges. I'd have to start sanding the top of the Snowwoman again. And that's no fun because you're having to repeat steps. Now, I want to bring a little bit of color to the Snowwoman, and the first thing I want to do is to delineate the snowballs with a black line. And the way I'm going to do that is with a cool little toy here. It's 2 handles with a piece of strong wire in between it. And we're going to use these with the lathe iron real fast, pull back, get friction, build up, heat, and it'll burn in a mark. There we go. And you can see I still have the tailstock engaged. That helps counter the pressure I'm putting on the wood by pulling on it. I don't want this to snap off. You can see it's that quick. Burns in a nice black mark. Now the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of Cocobolo that I just cut on the bandsaw, and we're going to push on the hat band. And the pressure will burn the wood a bit, but also it transfers the color of the Cocobolo, so it's a nice brown color. So that's good. Now, while it's on the lathe, also, we're going to take a wax that has an accelerator in it to help it dry. And we're going to slather that on. And we're going to use the speed of the lathe to help burn in the wax, and it's going to be a really nice sealer. Now this is not the last step we're going to do on the snowman to finish it. We're going to really pretty it up in just a little bit. Okay, all the excess is off of there. Okay, get this out of the way. Now we're going to part this off. I want to get my tool rest out of the way. Tool rest, tailstock. You do that about 12 times a day, you get your exercise in, believe me. We're going to bring this up just a little bit below center and line her up there, and we're going to get our small spindle gouge, and we're going to nibble the wood away on the end because the chuck will hold it. Now you might get some vibration while you're doing this. Bring the speed down a little bit. I don't need to break the sound barrier for this. And we'll just take light cuts. And by doing it this way, you don't wind up with really any sanding you have to do on the bottom. And you ride the bevel and make the cut nice and clean. Looks good. Perfect right there. So, we'll take the tool rest, move it around to this side. And we're going to part this off. Then, once we part it off, we're going to use the remaining wood to make the nose of our Snowwoman. Actually, I'm going to need that back here for a second. Take our parting tool to get rid of the bulk of the wood. And the shape of the top hat is crowned, because once you part this off, a crown is a lot easier to sand by hand than something that dips down. I want the top to be as finished as possible too, so I won't have to sand a lot, but I do want to leave a nub on the end, because if I parted this off flush, it would tear out the grain, and then you'd be trying to sand about 1/16 of an inch down into the top, and that would not work. Okay, now just a little bit of hand sanding and you'll have the top finished up. Now we're going to start making the parts for our Snowwoman. We'll want to start with the nose. Now you can make the nose any size you want or any shape you want, but just keep in mind they're usually carrots. But the one measurement that's really important is the size of the drill bit that you're going to use to make the holes in your Snowwoman, because you're going to attach everything by tenons, and this is really small. So let's get started. I'm going to use the same piece of wood, take my parting tool, and I'm going to start shaping the nose just by getting rid of some excess wood. And we're just going to cut down and get it roughly into shape. Just watch out for the jaws of your chuck. You don't want to make contact with them. That wouldn't be fun. But we have enough wood left here that I can safely do this. Now I don't want to take this all the way down with the parting tool because it'll leave a rough surface. So we'll come in with our spindle gouge with the fingernail grind and just do a nice little pull cut. That'll clean up the surface. We're going to try to round this out and make it look a little bit like a carrot. There we go. We don't want it to be too fat. We want her to be attractive. So there we go. Now, I'm going to take my really thin parting tool. Now, I'm not making the tenon the thickness I need to finish with. I'm just starting it so I have an end between the carrot nose and the tenon. I'm going to take my cocobolo again, crank this up a bit more, and we're going to color the nose. As that builds up heat, starts to transfer over. Now if your piece of wood doesn't want to burn, take it back to a bandsaw and just cut the end fresh. That'll expose new oils. And the reason I didn't sand this to begin with is the rough wood helps you out by making a little bit more surface tension. So there. Now it's a little bit dark, so I'm going to take some 320 grit sandpaper. There you go. We'll just lighten it up a little bit, and that orangish color of the cocobolo will come out. That looks nice. Now, we're going to go back to our small 1/16 inch parting tool. We're going to start to part down to the diameter of that tenon. There we go. That matches the drill bit size that we're going to go into the wood. Now, here it comes. I've lost several of these in the last few days. Oh, got it. I'm holding my breath. It would be a really good idea at this point in the project to get yourself a cup to start keeping all these little tiny pieces in there, because they're going to be all over the place if you don't do that. And also, don't get in a hurry and start cleaning your shop up and empty the cup out. That's a really dumb thing to do, and don't ask me how I know that. Now I'm mounting a 3/4 inch square piece of cherry in here. It's only about 3 inches long, and out of this little piece we're going to be able to make the eyes and the buttons for the Snowwoman. I'm going to turn my speed down. Obviously everything still clears, and I'm going to take my spindle gouge, and we're going to round out the blank a little bit, bring the speed up a little bit more than that. And you can make the eyes and the buttons any size you like, but on my snowman I made the eyes 1/4 inch, and then I made the buttons slightly smaller at 3/16 of an inch. Now I'm not rounding this out all the way down because I need as much thickness here as possible for the burning step. Bring this down a little bit more. Just use a pull cut around the end. That looks good. Just want to start my tenon. This is an eye, 1/4 inch in diameter. Bring the speed up. And the eyes are lumps of coal, remember. So we're bringing in ebony to make the eyes. Get that burning really good and hot. Oops. Kind of looks like an eyeball there, but I want to burn that out. Got to use some pressure to get this going good. There, now that's nice and dark. Let's continue at that dark all the way around. Woo! Oh, that's a good smell. Okay, now go back to our small parting tool. And we can leave the lathe at a high speed because this is such a tiny diameter. There's not a lot of feet per second going here, so the speed helps actually. Bring this up and part it down to the right diameter. There we go. Okay, now it's perfectly straight. One more cut. Here we go. And this is the procedure for the eyes and the buttons, so just continue working your way down the piece of wood a bit at a time, making buttons and eyes. 3 buttons, 2 eyes, and 1 nose. Don't lose your cup. Well, now we're going to turn something a little bit unusual, and that's the arms. As you can see, they don't look right. Well, that's off-center turning. It's a really cool technique, and it's not too hard to do. You can see I mounted a blank in here, and it's really wobbly. Well, that's on purpose because we're doing off-center turning. The arms, we want them to look like branches. So I'll take my 1/2 inch spindle gouge here, get through the rough part of the wood, switch to my smaller spindle gouge, and shape this to look like a tree branch. And slim it down, make it delicate. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to stop the lathe, and here's the fun part. We're going to adjust this. Let me undo this. There we go. We're going to take it and tilt it off axis again, because we don't want what we just turned to be on axis anymore. See, that's out of round. Speed this up. This is where it gets to be challenging but fun. You can actually see a shadow of the solid wood through there. And we want to trim this limb down as much as we can to make it as thin as possible. There we go. There we go. Now we'll stop it. Oops. Take a look at it. So you get the idea. We just work our way down, and move this at an angle every now and then, and we wind up with our arm. And just make sure you put a tenon on the end that's the same size as your drill bit. Well, we want our little lady to look good for her first date, so I'm using a 3-wheeled buffing and polishing system, and I'm putting on a coat of wax now as the final stage. We've already drilled the holes that are going to receive all of our parts, so once we glue those in, we're almost done. Now you can see why I didn't cut my nails for this project. Just a little dab of cyanide super glue. Put that in. Okay, hold it just a second. There we go. Everything's glued in. I'm going to take some of that original paste wax and start rubbing it on the arms to bring their color out. Well, now you have a great little gift that you can give, or something you can decorate your house with during the holidays. A lot of cool techniques involved in this project too. I had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. So until the next time on the Woodturning Workshop,
Keep turning. Hey, baby, come around her oven.
Start over? On, off, on, off. Well, we want our little lady to look good for her first date, so I'm using a buffing. Are you okay? Also, the top of the hat with it, which is 1/8 of an 1 1/8 of an inch. You know I do this for a living.
To purchase a DVD copy of this program, please call 800-823-7210. For more information about Woodturning Workshop, visit our website, rsupublictv.org.
This week on the Woodturning Workshop, Tim's gonna make me a friend out of this piece of wood. Ooh, nice grain, baby.
Roll, turn, lift the handle, and we're going to use the speed of the lathe to help burn in the wax, and it's going to be a really nice sealer. So until the next time on the Woodturning Workshop,
Keep turning. You're not gonna be turning. You gotta take out all the trash. Did you feed the dog? I don't see the lawn is mowed. You gotta take this out.